Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Hippie Chicks Live. And actually, today it is Hypno Chick Live. Welcome. I am Kat Cazimi. I am a certified clinical and transpersonal hypnotherapist. And also, I am an OG Gen-X Hippie Chick. Usually, I am here with my Hippie Chick sister, Elle White, having a groovy conversation. Elle is an incredible actor, director, screenwriter, producer, you name it. And she is working this evening. She has her opening of her hilarious play called SCOTUS at the Generic Theater, downtown No Fuck, Virginia. Did I say that right? No Fuck, Virginia. If you know, you know. Inside joke for Hampton Roads. So she is doing her thing. So it is just us. And Heidi is here joining us here from Germany. Welcome, Heidi. Hey, hey, hey. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. Maybe Gemini might show up later. She is from south of London, I want to say. By this time, she's hitting the pubs or doing something like that. So she'll join us maybe later. But everybody, welcome. Welcome. So glad that you're here. I want to know, how are you? Really, how are you? It's kind of crazy. Been a crazy year, been a crazy decade so far. It started off wacky and it just gets weirder from there. So really, how are you? I mean, here we are. We're closing out the first quarter of the year. I'm feeling pretty damn good, in spite of what's going on in the world, which of course is just ridiculous and horrendous and horrific and every other any kind of, I can't even talk. That's how much it upsets me. That's why I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about how good I do feel and why I do, because I've made some choices this year, and it started at the beginning of the year, which, it sounds like a New Year's resolution, but not really, because my birthday is crammed between Christmas and New Year. So that's usually the time when I set new intentions for myself. It coincides with the New Year's resolution. So I'm going to ask y'all: Did you set any intentions for this year? Any goals? And if so, how's it going? How's it going? Are you riding that fire horse energy, or you feel like you're, just flippy flopping all over the place? Because I'll tell you, this is the time of year I get a boatload of calls from clients. It's like, they set these goals and intentions, and out of the gate, they're super strong. They got it going. They're really optimistic, and they're really pumped to make this their year. And then somewhere around February, things start petering out. And then by this time, they're like, I've tried everything, maybe hypnosis will help. So I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. And that's usually how I get a lot of my clients is exhausted, everything else. But when they finally do come in for a session, they wish they'd started there to begin with, because every one of them comes in with the same issue. Why? It doesn't matter what it is they want to shift in their life. If they just trying to get healthy, want to lose some weight, or just eat better, make better food choices, exercise more. If they want to give up a bad habit, and not just smoking, but any nicotine associated problem, drinking, gambling, shopping, negative thinking. That's the biggest addiction most people have, is addicted to being addicted to envisioning the worst case scenario type of situation. So, everybody they do these two things that knock them right off of track. And the first thing they do is they're always focusing on the problem. I got to get rid of this weight. I got to stop smoking cigarettes. Oh my God, I got to quit gambling, man. I'm broke now. There's always the problem. Now, if I were to say to you guys, don't think of that purple cow, what happens in your head? You got a purple cow in your head, whether you realize it or not. But I said, don't think of the purple cow. You got to feel the purple cows in your head. So your mind doesn't care what you want or don't want. All it knows is what you focus on. So, that old saying, energy flows where your focus goes. is not bullshit. It's physics. It's real deal. So, where you're focusing on is what you're going to attract into your reality, because you are creating your own reality. So if you are trying to have a successful journey in accomplishing, overcoming something, the key isn't to focus on the problem. The key is to focus on the solution. The second thing they do is they start off with self-loathing, self-criticism, condemnation, shame and guilt. Oh my God, I'm such a horrible person because I let myself do this thing, let myself get fat, can't give up cigarettes. Oh, I have no willpower, I have no discipline. Oh, I hate that word. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And yeah, so that self-loathing, that self-criticism, let's talk about that for a moment, because most of us either are currently doing it or have done it in their lives. And it's so detrimental, because when you're trying, especially any kind of health journey, if you're starting off with a self-loathing, that is like trying to run a marathon barefoot on broken glass. You're sure you're going to get to the finish line, but it's going to be really painful, and you're probably going to want to stop before you get there. And you get your badasses that can plow their ways through, and they get there, and yeah, they got a story to tell, but most people give up, right? And then the cycle continues. The self-loathing, the self-criticism. I have no willpower, no discipline. All right, so let's get rid of the word discipline. That's something I have decided to do this year, because the word discipline subconsciously equates to restriction and punishment. And when you're self-loathing and you're trying to employ, discipline, the internal drill sergeant, we're going to bully ourselves. Who responds well to a bully? Nobody responds well to a bully. You can't bully yourself into someone you love, right? It's just not going to happen. So, this self-bullying thing, get rid of the word discipline, first off, because it's not helping you. It doesn't make you tougher. It makes you feel like you're getting beat up. Exchange it for language like dedicated. You want to be dedicated to yourself, dedicated to your health, dedicated to your goal. You want to be devoted to yourself. That has more of a vibration of love to it, doesn't it? Hopelessly devoted. It makes you think of Grease and Olivia Newton-John. Hopelessly devoted. I won't sing for you. I promise. You don't want me to. But anyway, devoted. And then what was the other one that I have? Determination. Oh God, you got to be determined. You're dedicated, devoted, and determined. You're determined to make this happen. That makes it non-negotiable right there. And when you combine those three together, that creates your destiny. That's the fourth D right there. So, that is the key to do that. That's what I've decided to do for myself this year, is instead of beating myself up, is to show up for myself, because starting off a health journey, and now is the time for me to do this, because for the last 5 years I have allowed myself to hibernate. Yeah, I needed to hibernate. I had gone through a tremendous amount of trauma, and 2020 capped it all off. And my life had already blown up before 2020 happened. And that was just the icing on the cake. And I needed to start over. And that's how I ended up in Hampton Roads, or Virginia Beach, from Maryland. And since then, I've been hibernating and healing and taking care of myself, and in a way that just made me feel safe. I needed to create a place where I felt safe, peaceful, and happy. And I've done that so far. But along the way, some things kind of did slip out of my control in regards to my personal health. Just because I honestly I felt like I needed to protect myself. I was alone for the first time in my life, my whole life. I say my adult life, my whole freaking life. I went from my parents to my first husband, from my first husband back to my parents, and then my parents to my second husband, to here. All right. So that was a lot for me to handle. So I needed to protect myself, and I had to dim my light because bright lights attract more than moths, don't they? They attract mayflies and stink bugs and mosquitoes, and they're all immune to any kind of crop dusting whatsoever. So yeah, I had to dim my light and hibernate for a while, but I'm ready to come out now. So that's why I decided this year, this year, the fire horse. I'm going into 60 the best version of myself, and this is where the determination, the devotion, and the dedication needs to come in, because beating myself up, that's not going to work. That's just going to make me feel worse, right? So I wanted to share that with you because I know everybody does it. Every client that walks into my office has that same issue, and the therapy is showing people how to genuinely love themselves. I don't want to use the word self-love because that's just so weird sounding. And some people it just sounds too Pollyanna, and other people just sounds pervy, actually, to be honest with you. Yeah, I like self-love. So, you know, so how you doing over there, Heidi? So, so it's an important aspect of just being a human being, and why we're just taught to hate ourselves. I think that self-loathing is the biggest cause of suffering on this planet, and it causes people to do the shittiest things to each other. Seriously, you know, people who say they love themselves on the outside, and they're knocking themselves out to, just look like a magazine cover, but on the inside they genuinely hate themselves. That's what really comes through, when people doing all the surgery and whatnot. It's just like, come on, man. Try shining out from the inside out first before you start cutting yourself up. My dog is throwing his bones around, excuse me. So it's an important aspect to being a human being or on this journey, and it's such a hard one for most of us, because we have been taught to hate ourselves, because that keeps us disempowered, right? Everywhere you look, there's messages that are disempowering, messages that are just sucking the life out of you. So, where are you bullying yourselves? What's going on? Heidi, where do you bully yourself? Do you beat yourself up over stuff? Do you catch yourself, sometimes you just feel like you do. We all do stupid stuff all the time, but I've learned to just laugh at it. I go, oh well, that's me. Sometimes that happens. And there was a time that I would have been like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, and I would have ruminated over it over and over and over in my head, and it just would have been all consuming, especially since I'm ADD. I mean, I would have just been like a dog with a bone. Right, Levi? So yeah, it's if you're going to focus on something, focus on what you prefer. And that kind of takes me to what I also work with my clients. I tell them about the automatic negative default, which is we're all stuck in that. And that's focusing on what you don't want or don't like. I don't like the way I am. I don't want to be like this. Focusing on what you're afraid might happen. What if this doesn't work? What if I'm stuck like this forever? Or focusing on what you don't have. I wish I felt better, or wish I was, prettier, skinnier, smarter, richer, whatever the case may be. But I'm not. I wish I could change, but I just can't. When you're focusing on all that stuff, that's what you're holding in your vibration. This is why it frustrates me that we're a society that is insistent on fighting against what we don't want, even when it sounds positive, like fight against cancer. All right, cancer's not anything to be joking about, but it's fight and cancer are two double negative. It's a double negative right there. You're fighting and it's cancer. You're giving center stage and spotlight to the things you don't want. Right. And so the key is to focus on what you do want. How about focus on health? And Heidi says sometimes he feels really bad because of all the stuff he did, but he just gets over it. And sometimes you just focus on the the daily stuff or meditate. Yeah, absolutely. The mundane stuff kind of, well, that's keeping you distracted for sure. But, utilize your thought energy effectively. We just miss it. We're missing the whole point of this is our most precious commodity. Why do you think they're fighting so hard for our attention? Because our thought energy is our most precious commodity. It's worth more than anything else on this planet. And if we are just idly getting distracted and not thinking about anything really, not even focusing on what we do want, but more so focusing on what we don't want, that keeps us disempowered and not creating the reality that we want. And it keeps us in lack mode, which makes us easier to control. So your thought energy is the most powerful and most precious commodity that you possess. So, take a hold of it, grab it. You gotta utilize it in the best way possible and focus on how you prefer to feel. You don't prefer to feel, you know, powerless. You don't prefer to feel shitty. You don't prefer to feel disrespected or alone or scared, right? You prefer to feel happy, safe, empowered, peaceful, right? That's an important one. And when you're in that automatic negative default, you're not peaceful. There's no peace. There's no peace in that. And so your whole ecosystem, your whole biological system, should I say, is just running full time on stress because you're always creating these scenarios that it has to respond to because it doesn't care if it's thought form or physical form, it's going to respond. And so, it's wearing everybody's adrenals out, and making people, leave the planet a lot sooner than they might have had they not been so stressed out all the time. And that's another thing I try to advise my clients. Hypnotherapists coming for hypnotherapy isn't just about getting rid of a bad habit or trying to quit smoking or lose weight. It's stress management. It teaches you how to get out of that automatic negative default, so you're not constantly ruminating on all this stupid shit that you have no control over, right? And we get hooked on that. We get addicted to that, and it becomes part of your neural pathways, and you create a gully, and that's how people get stuck there. And the easiest way to do that is obviously through hypnotherapy, and you can't do it through meditation and your own repetition. Hypnotherapy is definitely an efficient and an expedient way to do it. But all of that, absolutely. If you put the intention in there to shift your mindset and you're just consistent with it and you're gentle with yourself, you don't beat yourself up when you catch yourself slipping back into old patterns. You just gently redirect yourself back on path. Eventually you get there. And yeah, the key is focusing on what it is that you're wanting in your life. Because Lord knows, we spend too much time doing all the crap that we don't want to do, and it drags you down. And if you're doing that on top of feeding your mind junk food, and that's what all that is, worrying about shit you have no control over is mental junk food. And you get into it after a while, and next thing you know, you're craving it. And I know people, and I've even done it myself, you start creating situations in your environment because you miss it. You create something even if it isn't happening. Shit, I had a partner like that. My ex-husband was that way. If it got too peaceful between us, he would start something. He'd bait me into whatever stupid thing just to get things, just so he can get that fix, get that dopamine drop of that action, of that fight. And yeah, people get addicted to it. So, don't forget about that. So what else is going on with everybody? Ivy, what are you doing over there? What time is it in Munich, by the way? It's probably like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, something like that. It's so funny. when I do hypnosis, I am talking straight for an hour, and I've only been talking for 20 minutes right now. I think it's because I'm so used to having the banter go back and forth, and I'm looking at the screen of myself, which is really kind of bizarre. So I'm just pretending I have a twin sister, which is not too far because my sister and I look a lot alike, but we're 4 years apart. And my stupid joke is always when people say, "Are you twins?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." And we're 4 years apart, and it was hell on mom. It's so stupid. But I say it every time. It doesn't get old for me. So anyhow, how are you guys doing, by the way? I was thoroughly expecting to see our producer to pop up, but he's a busy man. But that's okay. We got Ides here keeping me company. Uh, I appreciate you being honest about how, the stuff that you feel bad, but, meditation is absolutely a key. And I wish everybody would do that. And meditation isn't always just, sitting there and doing that kind of thing. I actually like motion type of meditation, like walking, like a nice walk is perfect meditation. Excuse me. You don't always have to have the earbuds in or some kind of distraction. Just listen to nature around you. Take a walk in the woods by a lake. You can, he says it's 11 o'clock in Germany right now. Oh, wow. Yeah. The sun is still shining here in Hampton Roads. So prost to you at 11 o'clock. But yeah, go for a walk on the beach. I love swinging on a swing set. There is a particular swing set in Central Park. I think it's in front of the Essex House, if I'm not mistaken. It's huge. It's adult size swing set. It's not some little kiddie thing. It's an adult size swing set. It's the best freaking swing set in the whole wide world. And as long as I am physically able, I don't care if I am 99 years old. If I see a swing set like that, I am getting on that sucker. That is the most perfect kind of meditation for me. It just puts me in a different place. And the higher I swing, the more transcendental it becomes. And I'll tell you a story about a swing set. When I had one, in my childhood home. And I want to say at the time, I must have been maybe about 11, 12 years old, just a tween. I wasn't a teenager yet, but budding. And I'm on the swing set and I'm by myself. And it's just a beautiful evening. And, sun's going down and I could see this, the colors through the trees and all that stuff. It was absolutely beautiful. And out of the freaking blue, something just jumped into my heart and I just can feel loved. I felt loved. It was like God touched my heart. Like if the finger of God came down and touched my heart and I felt loved. I started like crying right there in the moment. And it was like as I'm swinging and it was like I was in this portal, this heavenly portal. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And it just made me, I don't know, feel so safe, made me feel held, made me feel seen and acknowledged. And I've carried that feeling through some of the toughest times I've had here. And I think that was why that happened, because I was going to need it. I was going to absolutely freaking need it. So, if you've had experiences like that where you've just, it's more of an ethereal or psychic or spiritual background or feeling to it, what happened for you that just kind of, keeps you hanging on or keeps you, keeping on path. What went on in your life? I had another thing happen around close to the same time. I think, that age, especially for young girls. Oh God, here we go. They're very powerful at that age. I had a very psychic dream for my great grandmother, Ruby Creel. God love Ruby Creel. Ruby Creel was a special lady and cackled like a chicken when she laughed. She's a old school country girl from the Warrenton, Virginia area. So she is Southern true and true. And she lived to be 92, and this was close to her leaving the planet. And I was having a hard time. I think I was 14 at the time. I was having a hard time with my then boyfriend. He was just a complete idiot, of course, but he was the kind of jealous dude that didn't want me even asking a guy what time is it, that kind of thing. And I finally had to just cut him loose. And I was having a hard time, cried myself to sleep, kind of, boo hoo hoo, whatever. And Grandma Creel was already in the hospital with one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel. And I think she was going back and forth between here and the next plane. And I had this dream where we were having a holiday party or whatever, and it was just the women in the kitchen. And all of a sudden, Grandma Creel walks into the front door, and I look at everybody, and she walks down into the basement. She sits down into this rocket chair that we had down there, which I possess still. She sat in this rocket chair, and I come downstairs. I'm like, Grandma Creel, what are you doing here? And she just looked at me, rocked in the rocket chair, and started laughing a little bit. And she just said, come here. And I go and I sit next to her, and I'm thinking, this is really weird, because I'm thinking already she's dead. Like, Grandma Creel, you're dead. What are you doing here? And she just looked at me. She's like, I just came here to let you know that you were loved. And then in a split second, she brought me down into the laundry room area of this home. And now this laundry room area of this home, and you can ask my sister next time she's on the show, it was definitely a portal in this house. All right. Big time portal. And she took me down there, and we started walking towards the machines, the washing machines and the dryer. And all of a sudden they disappeared. And it was like the most lush, beautiful garden with colors I can't even describe, and this most beautiful music. And it all happened for just a nanosecond, and then it was gone. She gave me a glimpse of heaven. I was like, wow, Grandma Creel, that was amazing. And she just, yes, child. And then we went back upstairs, and she went back in the rocking chair, and I'm like, Grandma Creel, can I give you a hug? And she said, of course you can. And I gave her a hug, and it was the most electric thing I've ever experienced in my life. And that is something I will take with me forever. So thank you, Grandma Creel, for placing that in my heart and in my mind and in my aura, because again, I really, really needed it. So so the long and short of it, thank you so much for joining me here today and listening to me ramble here solo. I mean, the moral of the story here is to focus on how you prefer to feel. You prefer to feel safe, peaceful, and happy, and you deserve to be as sovereign beings. And be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself, please, because you can't bully yourself into someone you love. Right? The real change is when you start showing up for yourself. And when you show up for yourself, miracles happen. You start attracting the people you deserve to have in your life, the people who are going to treat you right in your life. When you show up for yourself, you get everything that you're looking for, because you are the captain. And this is your ship, and it doesn't always have to be 3 sheets up, right? So that's my little joke. No, I have a better one, because sometimes you got to grab life by the balls. And when you do, make sure don't grab too hard, because I understand that kind of hurts. So take that and have a great weekend. Thank you, Heidi, so much for joining me here today. Next week, I will be solo again, and we're going to talk about the difference between shooting stars and comets and relationships. And I think it's going to be a fun conversation. So stick around and join me for that, if you would, please. Coming up after me is, who are we got? We got Mystic Musings, Twin Flame Chronicles is coming up after me. So stick around for that. Heidi, you have a great night, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me. If any of you are interested in hypnotherapy and what I can offer, go to hypnohelpsyou.com. Again, thanks again. Love you guys to pieces. Peace and love. See you next time.